Hi everyone. So today was a very, I would say, productive day off, even if it wasn't productive in I would call traditional sense. And I'll get to that right now. So we'll start with the play-by-play. I didn't have to move my car out of the way this morning like I seem to do every recent morning for the past month now, I would say. Because my car was already up in the front. So, yeah, my mom could just go to work and I could stay in bed. So that was nice. I ended up waking up at around 11. And I remember I actually had this really weird dream where I was at a pool party with all of these people that were from the Simmy and Jimmy YouTube channel. Um, that specifically I think Urich, Iggy Eggman Rodriguez, Patchy's wife, Patchy, and Simmy and Jimmy were all there. I'm not exactly sure why I dreamt this. I remember in the dream I had this feeling of whoa, why am I invited here? I don't actually. I mean, I know them from watching their videos, but I don't know them enough where I think it makes sense for them to invite me over here. So it kind of had this weird dissonant feel where I was I shouldn't be here, but I'm here anyways. So I guess this is what's happening right now. It was a very odd, strange feeling. Um, I remember they were very friendly to me in the dream, but I also felt like I shouldn't have been there. It was just odd. Anyways, when I got up, my sister knocked on the door. She had her black cat call me, held, and she gave me her cat. And I decided to pet him and hang out with him throughout the morning in my room. I actually got him to start purring, so that was pretty cool. And then I let him get out of my room. And when I got out, I remember my sister was out there, and she was trying to capture, call me, and I decided I would use this time to go ahead and heat up a cinnamon muffin in the air fryer for 350 degrees for 3 minutes. Melt some butter, put it on the muffin, and yeah, I think that was what I had along with a cup of coffee. Um, and I decided I would go into my room, turn on the TV, and watch a Red Letter Media video that I was watching but didn't finish watching. The video about the Crank and Crank 2. And the funniest thing about that episode was at the end when Mike Stolklasa was thinking about what they could do for a Crank 3, and he called it Trank. And basically it was about how Jason Statham was in a constant state of incapacitation due to having this substance in him that caused him to be lethargic and slow. And the whole movie would be shot as a one slow oneer where he's hobbling around these dangerous streets all half awake trying to make his way to get the antidote to get what was inside of him out of him. And all the scenarios they brought up just were really hilarious. So yeah. And then when I was finished watching that video, at the end, it turns out that a brand new episode of Red Letter Media's animated show that they have produced called Spitballs was released today. This one was called Ninja Accountant, and of course I'm going to check it out because I really enjoy their content, and I think the idea of something like, a ninja accountant sounds hilarious. I actually went out to the living room. My sister was making some sauteed vegetables, and she made some cooked, chopped up potatoes. She gave me her chopped up potatoes, which I very much enjoyed. And I asked, and I was grateful for, and I asked her if she'd be interested in watching the Red Letter Media Spitballs episode with me. She said she was all right. She was gonna do some yard work, so I was like, all right. So I had the potatoes, and I had another cup of coffee, and I decided to watch this episode. It was very funny. It was basically the Red Letter Media crew was playing like these characters where Jay's like this like aspiring actor who is stuck working at a like as a barista in a coffee shop because there's no hiring for actors in Hollywood. Mike was an aspiring screenwriter who just decided to try writing like manuscripts for like silly books that sound like something no one would want to read. Like he was working on a book about um, like a president's nuts or something. Just ridiculous. And then the other one was Rich Evans, who was playing this like homeless dude who hadn't been hired for a gig in like 25 years because he got typecasts as like this like dude who could only be a sleaze in like dumb comedies from the early 2000s. Um, and so he's been having difficult time trying to get work ever since. But he's aware that there is indeed a Hollywood like party happening, and he decides to trick Mike and Jay into coming over with him to this party so they could convince a potential film producer there to fund their idea so they could finally sell something and make money from it. So they all go there. They all like dress up as these like waiters, as though their covers and blown, and then they come across what they think is a film producer, and they start pitching their idea of a film about a ninja accountant, and basically it's about like a ninja who is replaced by drones, like because AI drones are far more efficient and quick to deal with issues than like a ninja is apparently. And so he decides to go to like college to learn how to be an accountant. Even though I'm pretty sure an accountant would be one of the first jobs taken over by AI, but no matter. And then like the whole joke is like he's so into learning to be an accountant that when opportunities of like action or adventure pop up, like he just goes, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to continue studying to be an accountant." And then, like, as the movie progresses, or the story progresses, he basically becomes, uh, he's able to become an accountant, but apparently he's really bad at it, and he's trying to hack into, like, the mainframe of the company who started selling the drones that replaced him as a ninja so he could tank their finances and destroy their company. And then basically the end, he the guy who like is funding the company says, "I'm about to drop billions of dollars into my other assets so that way I can continue keeping this business going." And then when he clicks the button, it says there are $0 in your account. And then he said something like, "Looks like you hired the wrong accountant." So yeah, it was a really dumb idea. Um, but like at the end of the episode, essentially, Mike, Jay, and Rich were like surprised that the film producer wasn't a producer at all, but a disgraced congressman politician who ends up, well, doing something drastic. We'll just put it that way. And then they decide to go back to what they were doing before, and only to find out that their idea was actually adapted and became a huge moneymaker, but they got none of the credit. And so basically the episode like ends on a huge downer where like Jay seems like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move up in the world, but then both Mike and Rich are like, death can't come sooner. So yeah, it was a pretty hilarious episode. I really enjoyed it. Um, and then I thought to myself, well, I kind of want to see what would happen if you took like the Red Letter Media had this like poster released way back in the day done by an artist who drew them in the style of like Disney characters. And so I thought, what if I took those designs and then used them with like the framing and shot composition of the Spitballs episode and tried to like make the movie using Grok's AI video generator. So I decided to try to do that because I was just curious to see what that would look like. Ultimately, the fruit that bore from it was extremely mixed, inconsistent, annoying, and just not ultimately worth doing because even though sometimes you did get some genuinely interesting or impressive results, most of the time it just came across as like really, you know, unfinished or underwhelming or just not at all what I was imagining. And I just kept on hitting the regenerate, kept on going back to both ChatGPT and like asking, hey, it didn't do it right. What am I doing wrong? And it like said, you need to put in strict parameters. You need to make sure that you're labeling the characters. You have to make sure that you're not wording it in a way that's confusing the AI, thinking that one character's saying a dialogue when it's really the other character saying the dialogue. But actually, it's just a roll of the dice, and you don't really know what's going to work and what isn't. And there's just so many variables for things to go wrong that ultimately it's just more frustrating than it is like enjoyable of experience because you have so little agency after you click the button. Most agency you get with Grok AI is that you can send it starter frames or reference frames, and then you can give it a broad general description of what's going on. But when you try to make it do something that's very complex and requires a lot of moving parts, like character in the background talking, character in the foreground talking, bokeh depth of field, certain actions being performed on cue. The model just has a really difficult time trying to understand what it's supposed to do, and ultimately you get a really underwhelming and unimpressive result a lot of the time. Sometimes you get actually decent looking results that look like a finished product, but most of the time it's just embarrassing and sucks. At least for like the 2D animation. And we'll get to why that is, why I said that. But after the failed attempts working on that project, I decided to go out of, well, and as I was working on the project, I had a documentary play on my CRT television about scientists who were researching growing food in space for space exploration, and that looked pretty awesome. Very cool indeed. So, yeah, after I was done experiencing that, I went out into the living room. I greeted my mom, and me and her decided to get to work on making that ant video that we said we were going to make together. And we just kept on, we started off trying to say, hey, I think it should be done this way. And she thought, no, it has to be fitting this timeline. I'm like, well, we could just, generate frames and footage and then edit it to the music so it feels more natural. So, yeah, we had a little conflict there. But ultimately, I just downloaded the music we were going to use. I opened my animation app on my phone, and I essentially used that to help me discern like what actions should take place. I even drew like some characters like doing things that my mom described she wanted to see, like like a ant like holding like a basket of fruit over there, and another ant like holding a truck over their head and whatnot, and then like a row of ants like carrying things. And I thought, ooh, that would be a good idea. And we basically just threw ideas back and forth. We generated what my mom thought were good enough and well finished like starter frames and end frames from ChatGPT's image 2 generator, and then we threw those into Grok's video generator. And Grok definitely was more consistent for some reason with these 3D like animation looking results than it was with the 2D results. I'm not exactly sure why that's the case. I think it might have something to do with the fact that the model was trained on a lot of 3D animation, more so than 2D animation. And so that's why the results ultimately just end up looking far more finished and appealing when you use 3D character models instead as your starter frames, which is what we're using for this project. So, yeah, ultimately, we ended up working on that project for like a good 2.5 to 3 hours before eventually my mom and our family friend went off to a women's Bible study. So I decided to then use that time to just generate one more bit of footage. Showed my sister, she thought it was pretty cute. And then I had dinner that consisted of hot Cheeto lemon flavor, Tyson crispy air fried chicken, a bubbly soda, and I completely forgot to mention this. In the in between time when I was working on that Red Letter Media little Grok video project, and before my mom arrived and we worked on the ant video, our family friend did make lunch for me, which consisted of 6 taquitos with lettuce and salsa and beans with cheese, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. Very delicious lunch. I even had some bubblies to go with it, grape and lemon flavored. Anywho, we're now jumping back forward, where I essentially spent throughout the afternoon listening to this brand new, I would call it a podcast, but I'm not exactly sure if it qualifies as one, because when I think podcast, I think of like, people with like professional recording equipment, all like, talking in different parts of a room. But in this one, it was like literally like, basically what it was there's this guy, his name's Maxwell Adams. He is the creator of one of my most favorite shows growing up, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And he decided to resurrect his YouTube channel, where he is essentially making it like a bastion for people who are huge fans of early 2000s animation, late 90s, early 2000s animation content, where he's going to be talking with like cartoon creators that he worked with, or that he at the very least was associated with, or had working relations with, and they basically just share their whole story about their time working in the studio and what it was like working in the studio back in those days. And I found this out by his new channel like trailer, where essentially he was playing with like 2 dolls, like one was Billy, one was Mandy, and he was like having the characters like speak like how like Billy was like, "Oh my gosh, are we making a new channel?" It's like, "Yeah, Billy, we're making a new channel." It was pretty funny. I even left a hilarious comment, in my opinion, like saying, "This is like watching God play with an Adam and Eve doll," like, because it's the creator of the series playing with Billy and Mandy, final figures. Pretty funny. He even played with a Grim one. But it was his way of essentially announcing what he's going to be doing with the channel. And then I watched the first video of his channel, or listened to it. Well, the Cheetos, the Tyson chicken, and then the vanilla ice cream, and a bubbly cherry flavor, and then a cup of coffee. And basically, he was interviewing the creator of Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, and the creator of Codename Kids Next Door. And they were basically just shooting the breeze and talking about like what working in the studio system was like back when they started out, and their backgrounds as artists, and how they ended up getting into producing their own stuff. And I just thought it was a really cool conversation. And the thing that was I thought was most interesting about it was how Cartoon Network seemed to just be super chill and allow creators to really express themselves and do all manner of creative, interesting ideas and whatnot. And I feel like as time went on, Cartoon Network started to become a bit more strict. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it stopped allowing creators to be more expressive. Like, I would say that Cartoon Network was pretty cool, like, all the way up until mid 2015 when it kind of started to be less inventive and less, like, interesting, and relied on, like, old proven concepts and recycle a lot of, like, shows and stuff. But before 2015, I would say, like, that was pretty good era from Cartoon Network's inception all the way to that ending mode, with that little mini dark blip being the CN Real era, which was like between, like, I think 2008 to 2009, I believe. Ooh, that was such a cringy era. But it only lasted like 2 years, so I'm thankful that it didn't last that long. But anyways, yeah, so they were basically just sharing a lot of studio stories and how they what was it like for their shows to be focus tested, and how the reaction from the audience they got from, like, their shows. And the guy who created Robot Jones always said, like, yeah, people were always like, why does this look so scraggly, like, why does it look like something that came out in 1991? It's like, I will agree. Like, I saw, like, a clip of Robot Jones, and I always thought to myself, "Oh, this looks like an early '90s TV show." And I was surprised to find out that it was an early 2000s TV show, in an era when, like, cartoons had thicker outlines and just looked more sleeker and more modern. You have something that looks like it stepped out of 1993. It was a really weird design choice, but and the show only lasted like one season, but it seemed like a pretty interesting show. I don't think I've ever actually seen a full episode of Robot Jones. And if I had, I think I've only seen like one episode, but I've never actually sat down and watched the entire season. But yeah, there was just so much they talked about it, and I could really go on, but I'm just going to say I really enjoyed listening to their stories while I was playing Super Mario Maker 2 Kaizu Mario Easy mode on my Nintendo Switch. So yeah, it was a pretty good time. Eventually, my mom and her family friend arrived. They brought me and my sister cookies, but these cookies were some of the worst cookies I've ever had because they were from Panera, and you could literally taste, like, the preservatives and the dryness. They were, like, really dry, they were really hard, they left you a really bad aftertaste, and they just didn't taste good in general. To the point where I only took one bite and, like, I just threw it away. I just didn't really like it at all. Which is rare for me because I love cookies, but it tasted so bad I just couldn't force myself to finish it. Sad but true. But yeah, then me and my mom continued working on that ant video. We worked really hard trying to find, like, basically the right generations for certain scenes. When we found them, then we had to edit them into place, and we had to, like, cut out, like, like, scene lengths and try to fit them in their designated blocks in a way where it'd feel right for the scene to play out. And we were really working on that. My phone even got down to like 5%, and I had to plug it into my, like, ACE AV receiver. What do you call those things? AV audio video way I'm tired, if you couldn't tell. AC receiver? I don't know. The thing you plug your phone into to charge it. And yeah, we really worked hard on that. Eventually, Grok said I ran out of tries and I'd have to wait a while before I could try again. So that put an end to that. Then my mom watched some YouTube video that was like a compilation of a bunch of old commercials that she watched and grew up on. Our family friend even walked in and was watching it with her. And I was even watching too. I have to admit, like, there was something oddly hypnotic and inviting about like old TV commercials. Something about it just really draws you in. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe it's like the vintage nature. Maybe it's like the old analog look. Maybe it could be like just how snappy and fast paced it was, but not in an annoying, like, oh, this is exhausting way, but in a, wow, they're really getting these ideas out in a bang, bang, fast sort of way that still feels impactful without it feeling like overwhelming. So I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, then me and my mom reacted to like a video she made a while back, and that was pretty cool. And then I said goodnight to her. She went to bed. I went into my room, and I was looking at like what we did with our video, kind of admiring the progress. Then I was talking with Google about some financial thoughts that I had, and then after that, I decided to do some breath work in the living room. And after doing that breath work, which put me into a very deep, relaxed state, I decided to take my vitamins. I was listening to like a Terrence McKenna like interview. I think it was like last interview. I think his name was Terrence McKenna. I could be wrong. It was like the psychedelic guy. He sounds like this, and he really liked to talk about the nature of reality. That guy. If you know, you know. But yeah, he was basically like having an interview. I found out he had like this, like he died of this like brain cancer, so it was pretty sad. I mean, I actually asked how it felt on like Google, and said because the brain doesn't have any pain receptors, it didn't feel bad, but it does eventually cause you to like lose cognition or like your personality, and eventually cause you to become more slow, lethargic, go to sleep, and then ultimately leave this earth. It's very sad. But yeah, it was basically this whole interview was him talking about how things seem to be progressing at a faster and faster rapid pace, and how it's like time seems to like just be accelerating at a point where like it's causing us to rethink like what reality is and how we fit into it. Like really deep existential stuff. It was really interesting. And yeah, then as I was listening to that, I took my vitamins, I brushed my teeth. My sister came in with our orange cat, Malcolm. I pet him. I said I had to like go because I was brushing my teeth. And then, I rinsed, I went here, I recorded my update video, and that's pretty much my day. So yeah, I go to work tomorrow from 3 to 11, and that's going to be the case for the next 3 days. I think my next day off is like Monday again. So yeah, that's that. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody, and have yourself a great morning, evening, or night. Goodbye.